Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today I have decided to do a video on kind of just the overall, like if you are just starting as a pre-PA student, how to get involved, where to start, what to begin with, because there's just so much information on what you should do and it's kind of really overwhelming. I was a pre-PA peer mentor for 3 years during undergrad, so I got, all the undergrads who were new to the PA profession and kind of helped guide them through that beginning phase. So this is kind of a video on what I would tell them. Now, I want to preface this by saying that just because I got accepted to PA school does not mean I know everything pre-PA related or how to get into PA school. I'm not some kind of PA fairy that will tell you the exact steps how to get into PA school, but these are kind of the general things to follow to ultimately be accepted to school. So step one, if you are still an undergrad, is to pick your major. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of people post that they were like a biology major, a chemistry major, kines, whatever it may be, but I'm here to tell you that your major does not matter. As long as you, reach all the required prerequisites by the PA schools that you're applying to, you can be whatever major your heart desires. Now, the reason that most people are those majors is because they usually meet the prerequisites much better than a lot of the other majors, such as like psychology or humanities or whatever, but it is doable. And PA schools do accept community college courses. Some online courses aren't as accepted and you need to kind of check the schools for those case-by-case scenarios. But most PA schools do accept community college units. So say you are a psychology major and anatomy isn't in your schedule, you can do that at a community college during summer or even after you graduate. I personally chose kinesiology because it met all the prerequisites I needed, including anatomy and chemistry and all of that, and it had like a hands-on component that I really liked, but honestly, there is no best major. So most PA schools kind of have the same general prerequisites. However, some schools do require other things. So that's why I always recommend to check the schools before you get your heart set on them, just to make sure that you cover all their prerequisites so that when it comes time to apply, you're not like a class behind and you can't apply to that school. So here's just a list of the common PA school prerequisites. There are a lot of schools just kind of require the same thing. It's like general chem, general bio, very basic sciences. But then here's a list of other courses that are sometimes recommended or required by other schools. But like I said, you just need to pay attention and kind of see which schools require what. So the second thing, step 2, that I recommend is to make spreadsheets. And I know at first when you're just starting that it can be super overwhelming because there are just so many PA schools, but to me, I think personally the spreadsheet really helped me narrow down which schools I would even be interested in. So I first, did like location, so I chose schools and locations that I would even consider going to, and then I narrowed it down by, class size, how many months, what their pass rate, which is a certifying exam, seeing what their pass rate was, so it can show if they're adequately teaching their students how to be PAs, just other things like tuition price to see if those are schools I would even want to be going to. So this doesn't need to be like your final list of all the schools that you are going to apply to in the future. It's just kind of, a rundown just so you can narrow down your prerequisites, because I know if you look at schools across the country, they all have different requirements, and if you just kind of base all of your prereqs on those multiple schools that you might not even apply to or not even really interested in applying to, then you might take like say genetics when only one school needed it and you don't really want to go to that school, so then you took that whole class for one school you're not even really interested in at the end of it. So that's always really good to at least make like a list early on. Like I said, it doesn't need to be a final list, but a list early on so you can kind of coordinate your prerequisites around that. So I also made a spreadsheet. I have a post to it, so I'll link it in the description, but I made a spreadsheet where it was each school on the side and I just listed all of their prereqs, just the course titles, the ones that correlate with the classes at my undergrad. So I did like Bio 212, which is anatomy, Chem 200, Chem 1, I listed them all out, and then I did green if I had already taken them, blue if they were in progress, and then red if I hadn't taken them yet. So when I did all of that, also shout out to my friend Kit, she's the one that did that, but when I listed those all out, I got to see which ones were more red, and if there was a lot of red, sometimes I just took that school off my list. If it wasn't, if my heart wasn't set on it, I just take it off my list, but if they had a lot of green, then I know that I can apply to that school. So step 3. I would really highly recommend shadowing. Shadowing is a really great way to see if you are even interested in the profession before you go through all these prerequisites and hours and all of that whole shebang. So I would highly recommend shadowing first a PA to see if, you know, that's even the right profession, but I would also suggest shadowing like an NP or a doctor to see if there's any differences that you'd be like, oh, I don't, you know, maybe I want to be a doctor, or actually I kind of like NPs, or so it's really good to have that experience. Plus you need shadowing for your application anyways, and it's really good to build a relationship with providers early on. So I would highly recommend, if you are even starting to become interested in the PA profession, to find a PA to shadow just to be sure. Okay, so step 4, and this is oftentimes the most stressful and most obviously time-consuming one, and that is patient care experience. So there are so many types of patient care experience that you can do. You can be a nursing assistant, an EMT, you can be a PTA, a patient care technician. There's like plethora of ideas out there, but there is no best experience. Honestly, it's whatever you feel like you want to participate in and will genuinely enjoy. You just have to make sure that the schools, everything depends on the schools you want to apply to, unfortunately, so you just have to make sure that the schools you want to apply to accept it. For example, a couple of the schools that I applied to don't really prefer scribing experience, and that at the time I applied, I only had 70 hours, but by the time I would actually get into school, I would have like 1,600 or whatever many hours of scribing. And so although it's technically I have like 3,000 patient care experiences, half of it they won't even accept. So they really didn't take that into account, and therefore I got rejected. That's okay. But if you have a really strong affinity to work in emergency medicine, then maybe become an EMT. Or if you're not comfortable with having those like awkward conversations with people and don't know how to have that bedside manner, maybe become a nursing assistant or an MA. However, one thing that I really highly recommend is to worry about your GPA before your patient care experience. I know everybody is super stressed out saying like, I need all these hours and it's ridiculous how much they require and yada yada yada. But I would always say you can get patient care experience relatively easy, but your GPA, if you don't focus on that at first, then you kind of mess up a little bit. It's okay. You're not going to be disqualified from, you know, applying to PA school, but it's much harder to fix than it is building other parts of your resume. Also, one tidbit of information that I think helps people realize why so many hours are needed for PA school is that the profession was built on Navy corpsmen who already had years of medical training, but didn't want to go to med school because they were older, you know, that already had like a previous career. So they transitioned to PA school, which was only 2 years, which means they had to have a lot of background knowledge to be able to only do 2 years and then start to provide medical care. So that's kind of the information or the reason why you need to have experience beforehand, because that's the profession was built for and on people who had previous medical experience and just needed a formal way of schooling to be able to treat civilians. So, fun fact. Step 5, and I know you're already like 5, look how much stuff do you need to do to get into PA school, and like it all sounds like a lot, but honestly if you take it like bit by bit, it's really not too bad. Okay, step 5 is volunteering, both medical and non-medical. A lot of schools have their mission statement, you know, something in the mission statement about compassion and giving back to the community, because obviously it's healthcare and you're giving back to people and you're talking to people all day long, so you need to have some compassion, and volunteering is a really great way to show compassion. So if you have a population that you're really interested in working in, I would say do all of your volunteering or majority of your volunteering in that population, so that when you go, you know, on your application, you have a strong theme. Like for me, I really liked working with elderly people and then individuals with disabilities. So most of my experiences, both medical and non-medical, revolved around those two populations. But I would highly recommend doing something you actually enjoy doing, because if they ask you about it and you were just volunteering at some like group and you didn't like it and you just did it for your resume, and then they ask you about it and you don't have much to say about it, they're gonna see that you're just doing volunteering just so you can have a resume booster. But I would say do something that you actually like doing, that you're passionate about, and that when somebody asks you about it, you can go on and on and on about it. Also, you can definitely volunteer at something completely away from a hospital or anything medical related. You can volunteer at your church, you can volunteer with children, you can do, elementary school things, like whatever your heart desires. You know, they also want to see that you're a person too and that you have interests outside of the medicine, you know, the medical world. So doing things that you really love that are not related to that is perfectly fine and really encouraged. All right, step 6, and this is getting involved. So if you're an undergrad, it's a lot easier to get involved because there are actually things to get involved in. So you can do your pre-PA club. If you don't have one, you can potentially start one. I know that's a really big endeavor, but that is a possibility. But if you have a pre-PA club or a pre-health club, get involved, be a member, do a leadership role. You learn a lot, and that really looks good on your application that you are able to work with a team, especially in the PA profession. You work on a team, so to have that experience, this is really great. And you don't need to hold the president position, you don't need to hold anything like that, treasurer, secretary, something like that, anything to show that you're getting involved. If you want to start lightly and then maybe work your way up to those positions, or don't even worry about those positions, just show that you show up and have done it for years. It shows your accountability, it shows your dedication to the profession, that you're interested enough in it to be in a club and hold an exec position. So it shows that it means a lot to you. This profession means a lot to you, and you've shown that since early on. Involvements and stuff do not need to be at your school or with your pre-PA club. You may also have a leadership role on your sports team or at your work. There are so many other ways to get involved in leadership or show that you're a leader, aside from a student organization. Like I said, a lot of PA schools look at more than just your numbers, more than just your GPA and your patient care experience. They want to see that you're a person who has genuine interest and, has things that they enjoy to do in their life. And whatever that may be, I would just say get involved and really show on your application that that's a big part of who you are. And oftentimes that makes you stand out. So those are the core things that you need to focus on in undergrad to prepare yourself to apply to PA school. Obviously, as you get closer, there's things such as the GRE, and you have to worry about your applications and when to apply, and CASPA and all that, personal statement, letters of rec, yada yada yada. But this is if you're just starting out, all that can wait. Keep it in mind. I would do research on that, and if you hear any tidbits, because it is nice to think ahead of time. For a letter of rec writer, say you're in your first year and you have a chemistry professor that you really like, if you get close to them now, then that would be a really good letter of rec later on. But I wouldn't stress too much about those because they kind of fall into place as your journey goes. But this is what I would say focus on now, because there's so much information, and this is kind of easier if you break it down. But like I said, I was a pre-PA peer mentor, so this is kind of what I did for 3 years. People would come to me with their own personal situations, and I'd help them break it down. So if you ever have any questions or you need help or anything along this path, like I said, I just got accepted, so I don't know everything, but obviously I did something right. So I can help you with whatever you need, or if I don't know the information, I can find other people who do know the information. But like always, you know where to reach me. You can either leave a comment down below, or you can message me on my Instagram at whitecoatchasing. And please don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.